Everyone, I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you would, please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Ms. Minetta, if you would call the roll, please.
Good evening, Renee Manita for the record. Roll call, Karen Andrus, absent. Carl Baracco, present. Joseph Cruz, absent. Ron Inge.
Here.
Christy Knight. Here. Matthew Lincoln Hall.
Here.
Fred Monson.
Here.
John Paul.
Here.
Chris Robin.
Here.
Nathan Shaw is absent. Sawyer Smith is absent. Shane Spring.
Here.
Andrew Sund is absent. Bridget Thoreau. Here. And Savannah White. Here. That's a quorum.
Thank you very much. Welcome everyone to the meeting of November 19th of the Conservation Lands Acquisition and Stewardship Advisory Committee. We have two new members we'd like to welcome, Mr. Fred Monson and Savannah White. If you could, we'd like to ask both of y'all, separately of course, to give us a little bit of information about yourself, just to introduce yourself to the committee, and we welcome you.
Hello, I'm Savannah. I live in Fort Myers. I work on Sanibel. I've lived here about a year, a little over a year. I got my bachelor's from the University of Florida in marine science and my master's from the University of South Florida in global sustainability. So this is just an interest of mine, and I was really interested in giving back to the community and being involved in the community. So I thought this was a good opportunity, and there was a vacancy. So I'm happy to be here.
Welcome, thank you. Fred?
It's Fred Monson, M-O-N-S-O-N, Norwegian. I'm retired Navy. I retired in 1989. Went to work for a government contractor, got a lot of gray hair, made a lot of money. Went sailing for 14 years, ended up in Fort Myers Beach just in time for Hurricane Charlie. I live out in Lehigh Acres, and there's a lot of issues out in Lehigh, and I was dealing with the Lee County Code Enforcement officers, wasn't getting anywhere, so I called Stacy, who was Lee Greenwell's assistant, and she got to know me, and she thought I'd be a good fit for this, and there's an opening for, I say Lee, I meant Mike Greenwell, I apologize. Anyway, and so I'm looking forward to it. My dad was a member of most of the conservationist groups. So I was growing up, I was exposed to that kind of stuff. He worked for the Fish and Wildlife Service for 32 years, and then he ended up out in New Mexico. Anyway, so sort of in my blood.
Well, thank you very much. Thank both of you all for volunteering to serve. We look forward to your perspective on issues, so thank you very much. Next item is to approve the minutes of September 17th. They were sent in advance. Does anyone have any comments, or if not, we'll entertain a motion for approval?
A motion. Second.
Okay. And Mr. Robin was in there too. So if you would, when you make a motion or second, state your name so that minutes back in the back who can't always see us will know who did that. But thank you all very much. All right, we have a motion for approval of the minutes of the September 17th, 2025 meeting. We have a second. Any further discussion? Any opposition? Carries unanimously. Thank you. We have a couple of items on our agenda, staff negotiated purchase agreement and some acquisition reviews, and just especially for our new members, what we'll do is we will have the item brought forward and discussed by staff. We'll have an opportunity to ask questions of staff as a committee. Then we'll pause, take public input, and see what input we might get from the committee, from the community. And then we'll come back for any other further questions that we may have or follow up with staff. And then a motion to go forward will be considered. For negotiated purchase agreement, we have to record our individual votes, so we'll sense how that's heading. If it appears that it looks like it might be a unanimous vote, or if it is, we won't have to poll everyone, but if there's a split vote, we will have to call name by name to ensure that we record the results for the record and for the Board of County Commissioners. As you all know, we're an advisory board to the Board of County Commissioners. Our say they take into consideration, but they act as their purview of elected officials to make their determinations on our input and any other input they may receive. All right, thanks, everyone. First item is staff negotiated purchase agreement for nomination 634. It's in the Crew Trust, Hanley Conlon Trust, 5 acres with a score of 79. Mr. Clemens?
Yes, this is a purchase agreement that staff has negotiated. The purchase price is at the appraised value, which is $12,500. The basic terms of the contract are the county pays for the title policy, survey, phase 1 audit, phase 2 audit if necessary, and $1,000 towards title clearing if there are any title issues on this. The seller will pay to get a release of right of entry as to subsurface rights. This property scored 79 points. It is in the Crew area. This is a critical water recharge area. So staff recommends going forward and recommending this contract to be sent forward to the board for acquisition.
Mr. Clemens, I assume based on your comments, it would be a Tier 1 item. Is that correct?
Well, this was a Tier 1 item, and we're looking at purchase as opposed to nomination. So Tier 2 wouldn't be coming forward with contracts until we work through all the
Just want to
Tier 1.
clarify that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Clemens with regard to nomination 634, 5 acres in the Crew Trust? If so, please ask away. Seeing none, we'll go to the public. Would anyone in the audience care to address the committee on nomination 634, 5 acres in the Crew Trust, the Hanley Cronin Trust with a score of 79? If so, please come forward. Any public input on nomination 634? Seeing none, we'll close the public input. Committee, what is your pleasure and or questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase.
Mr. Spring makes a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Redmond.
I'm sorry.
Second by Mr. Monson. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any opposition? That carries unanimously, Madam Clerk, so all votes are yes. Thank you very much. Acquisition reviews. We have 2 items on our agenda for tonight. The first one is nomination 143-2, Orange River Preserve infill. It's owned by Orange River Outdoor Center, LLC. Chapter 7 trustee, which is liquidating trust. 3.2 acres with a score of 61. Mr. Clemens, please provide us with some information on this, sir.
Yes, this parcel is on State Road 82. It's an infill parcel. Give a general area. It is south of where the power plant is. It fronts on the Orange River, and in this area, to get to the CLASAC is probably about a half mile to the north. Staff recommends going forward with this property. As you can see, it is an infill parcel between 2 existing Conservation 2020 properties, plus it has the frontage on the Orange River. These river properties score high with our water quality scoring and needs for the county overall for cleaning the water systems in Lee County. It did score 61, which is a relatively high score. So staff recommends to go forward with acquisition activities on this and to place it into Tier 1 for that acquisition activity. Any questions?
Just to make sure that the new members understand what Tier 1 means, since it's a new
Sure.
creation.
We have 2 sets of nominations. It was primarily to set the nominations that we had in front of us as of about 3 or 4 months ago, and we categorized them into 2 sets of parcels. Those that were of higher quality that were nominated, and those that were of a lesser quality. For example, you see this one is adjacent to an existing facility, county facilities. It's on the river. It has a lot of attributes that are attractive. Some of the other ones that have been recommended to forward for acquisition didn't have these type of attributes due to our funding overall, and so as not to expend everything, we prioritized the lots or the nominations that CLASAC recommended going forward with. So if you hear tier 1 are the primary, tier 2 would be secondary.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins, for bringing that up. Good point, very good point. Any additional comments or questions? Yes, sir?
I believe I heard him say it was adjacent to State Route 82, not 80.
State Road 80, if I said 82, sorry. Good catch.
That caught
State
my,
Road 80.
that caught my ear because that's Lehigh.
The rest of us just went right along with it. Good catch. Any further comments? Alrighty, well,
I have a comment
Mr.
or a
Bracco.
question. It all looks good, but it's difficult for me to look at this without comparing it to all the other properties we just put into tier 2. So how does this compare to all the other properties in tier 2? In other words, if there's 10 properties that we put in tier 2 already, this one might be on top of that, and maybe not. So how do we differentiate at this point what's tier 1 and what's tier 2? I mean, last time they were differentiated for us, but I can't compare this to tier 2.
If we look at this from the tiering system we had, I didn't bring the sheets with me. This scored 61. As you can see, this one has native vegetation on it. It does have some cleared area, but it was being used as a boat, kayak, canoe access. Those in tier 2, the one scored 56 points, but the other ones were in like the 16, 40, and 35. The one that scored 40, it scored high because it was a larger parcel in the general area of crew, but it wasn't contiguous to any crew, and it was completely void of any native vegetation. And that's why that one kind of shifted down there. This one, 61 points, scores quite high, is also an infill parcel. None of those other tier 2 parcels were infill parcels. They tended to be somewhat standalone.
Let me ask you a different way. When a nominated parcel comes in front of us, you're going to classify it before we look at it.
We would give staff's recommendation to classify it in tier 1 or tier 2
Okay,
and
so this is
justification.
coming before us, recommended by staff as a tier 1 property.
Correct.
Okay, that answers the question.
And then there can be discussion, and then if the
Certainly.
committee decides we don't see it that way, and the vote goes that we think it's a tier 2, or the converse to that, that we actually feel like it's a little bit higher value,
Yep.
we could put it into the tier 1 system.
I mean, I personally like this parcel.
Sure, no, I think,
But without comparing it,
I think it's a valid question, because that was kind of the problem that I had in my mind with the whole concept, is it seems somewhat subjective, and how do you then go back in your mental Rolodex with the number of parcels that are sitting there and say, well, is this better than that one? It's difficult. I can understand why it needs to exist, but
We'll bring the tier sheets next time. Renee will put them in the package so we can compare them as we move forward, and we can discuss them on those bases going forward.
I think,
So I think too that then staff, when they look at this before they bring it, they're looking at the tiers as well. You know what I mean? So,
Correct.
well, the way I look at it is ignoring the specifics of this piece. Let's say that piece is scored well, the county route would like to get it, and it's a price that's fairly high. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it may cause things that are in tier 1 to shift a little bit because those are not as valuable or infill or have frontage on the river as this piece does, might fall down in the ranking in tier 1 and this jump ahead of it. So this won't, I believe, this won't fall right at the bottom of tier 1. It'll just fit in there somewhere based on
We're
how it
looking
looks.
at tier, they're all equal as far as we've been
Okay.
looking at them in tier 1.
But if we only have this much money and we get this
Right.
much as requested, we got to categorize it somehow. That's what the whole purpose was.
I don't think I can assume that everything in tier 1 is equals tier 1, everything in tier 2 is equals tier 2.
And
I agree.
you know, you will how, you know, the pricing of these typically isn't going to come forward until we get a contract. We don't have a condition in scoring that if a property is perceived to be too expensive, that is a disqualifier. However, when it comes forward, the purchase agreement, that's where, when Mr. Inge said, if you have a disagreement or a concern with something, that's the time to bring that up. You know, all the attributes might be great, but the price is such that, you know, we really, is this worth the bang for the buck coming forward? And that would be the time we'd be addressing those parcels is during the contract.
So Ron, taking your thought a step further, we like this, but when we get the number, we might say, well, I really like that, but I'd rather use those dollars over here. So we would have that opportunity later.
To make as part of our recommendation back to the board, I believe.
Okay, so then my last question, I hope, is anytime you bring another nomination in front of us, the first thing we're going to do, I think, is say, okay, we agree it's tier 1 or not, or we agree it's tier 2 or not. Then we go forward. But we have to agree whether what's tier 2.
Well, I believe that the tier identification, if you will, should be part of our motion for these.
I agree, and that's the way, we have
So that
it.
we have a chance to debate that, and I don't know if we need to separate out as two separate motions, unless there's some disagreement, we may have to do that, but, you know, we'll see where the committee wants to head. Yes,
Yeah, this property had a lot of stored cars and a dilapidated trolley and a bunch of stuff in front. It's like, it seemed like they had a fence line around it. They're gonna, all the contamination of the runoff of the vehicles, and, there was quite a bit of cars at one time there,
It
or something.
has some issues, and that might be part of the reason this is coming forward. Some code violation issues.
There's like, there's quite a bit of vehicles down there. There's some old trolleys and fence lines falling down. There's already kind of disturbed quite a bit in that front area.
As part of our purchase agreements, we always do the phase 1 and phase 2 audit. So if there are conditions in there and we find those, assuming this went forward, we get it under contract, that is always a contractual condition, is that there are no contamination issues on the site.
Remove all the garbage too.
Yep. The garbage will have to be removed. There's been several properties that we've bought that have had buildings on them that are in disrepair, to be nicely addressed, and we make that a condition that they take it down, or we put into escrow funds from the sales proceeds to cover, so that the county's not paying to have that stuff removed as part of the purchase.
Can I add to that? I walked the property, I didn't see trash when we did the inspection.
It was just before a couple of years. I was always near going by, and there's a bunch of stuff just up front, just like 5 acres in the front, I think, or you can see.
Yeah, we didn't see it, so, but
Maybe they removed it already.
yeah, maybe he removed it.
I think that particular comment is something the staff will make a note of to ensure that they review that as part of it as it goes forward more.
Yeah, just a follow-up on that previous conversation. I mean, I 100% agree that being cognizant of dollar figures is important, but I think Councilmember Sun said it a couple meetings ago very well. Our job is to figure out if this has conservation value. Our job isn't to say, well, they didn't replenish the 40 million, so this probably should be a tier 2 because there's only 10 million in the fund. I don't think that's my role. I think my role is to say, this is an excellent property. Okay, we can say tier 1 or tier 2, but I don't think that the budgetary constraints are necessarily my concern. That is up to the council members to decide, what they're going to budget. That's my opinion.
Good point. Mr. Lincoln Hall, did you have a comment? Thank you. Any other questions or comments by the committee? All right, we have 2 cards. I'll call those in the order I received them. The first is Mr. Bill Burdette. Mr. Burdette, please come forward, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Bill Burdette. I'm happy to see this property back up. It was first offered when I was on this committee many years ago, and I'm glad to see we've got an opportunity to acquire this again, because it offers great advantages in terms of, with the Orange River Preserve that's next to it, to reduce the interface with private property, and it'll facilitate much easier maintenance of the Orange River Preserve or the combined preserves. So I would strongly encourage that we acquire this property. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next card, Millard, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it right. Relap, okay. Thank you, sir. You have 3 minutes, sir. Please identify your name for the record. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Philippe Maillard. I also think that property need to be. If you look, actually, it would be nice if on your drawing, on your map, you put the left and the right are already a preserve. So you make a bigger property. So, but except that, I will be the same. I will push for forget that property. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else in the public care to comment on nomination 143-2 Orange River Reserve Infill, 3.2 acres? If so, please come forward. Sir, please come forward. You have 3 minutes. Yes, sir, you do. And please state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
So my name is River West. I work on behalf of the bankruptcy trustee for this property. I'm with Michael Saunders and Company Commercial. That's why they asked me to be here on behalf of the trust. Just wanted to make a comment to your guys' concerns about what's on the property. The property has been cleaned up by the bankruptcy trust. No phase 1 or phase 2 have been completed, but as far as all the stuff that was being stored on site causing code enforcement liens, that has all been rectified. So there should be no concerns from you guys, at least, that any removal is necessary at this point. Staff, as she said, walked the property, after that cleanup, and it seemed to be clean to their review as well. And then, I think it is a valid point to what he's stating, that it removes the threat of private, land uses in the middle of what's supposed to be a large preservation area. We have seen plans for self-storage developments on this property that are already, showing what can be done there, and would see that as a shame of a use to be in the middle of what's supposed to be a conservation preserve. But wanted to at least alleviate any concerns about on-site trash or stuff being stored there at this time. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience care to address the committee on nomination 143-2? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close public input. What is the pleasure of the committee, or do you have any further questions of staff?
I just had a quick question. One of the gentlemen mentioned that this is the second time this nomination's coming through. What was the reasoning that we didn't approve it in the past?
99% of the time is price.
Okay.
And no price has been put forward yet.
Correct.
All righty, any further questions? Do we have any action that anyone on the board would care to take?
I'll make a motion. Shane Spring, you make a motion for move forward for acquisition.
We have a motion by Mr. Spring. Do we have a second?
Bridget Terrell, second.
Do we want to specify tier 1?
And, yes, thank you very much for that reminder. Would the motion...
The only reason I'm here.
And the turkey didn't put you to Mr. Spring,
I will amend my motion to make it a tier 1 property as well.
Ms. Area?
I will second.
The motion has been amended. The seconder has agreed. We have a motion and a second to move forward with this particular property for consideration of acquisition as a tier 1 property. Any further questions or comments? Any opposition? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. The next one is nomination 671, Charlotte Harbor Flatwoods. Infill is 19.5 acres with a score of 35. Mr. Simmons.
This parcel is about, I'm guessing about within a mile of a conservation 2020 parcel that we've already acquired on the Charlotte-Lee line. This parcel scored 35 points. It is in a critical area with regard to water recharge. You can see it's native vegetation. Looks like there's several flowways running through it, and staff recommends to go forward with acquisition activities on this in Tier 1, as this is an infill parcel. The advantage of acquiring this is that it precludes future development of the site that could otherwise interfere with the 2020 property we already have. When people come through for way of access in some of these parcels, because they don't have clear legal access or clear physical access, we always run into a potential that it could be coming over our property. And being that the state is in there, they would probably target our property first as a way to get to theirs rather than a more obscure way. And again, staff would recommend to go forward with this for acquisition and to place it into Tier 1, as it is surrounded by state lands as well.
Now, Robert, this is like all the other ones. We won't maintain it. They will maintain it for us.
That's not necessarily the case. We don't have an agreement that I'm aware of in this area. In the crew, we do. In this area, to my knowledge, we don't have an agreement with the state. That's not to say we couldn't pursue that once we get there, if we were to acquire it. But at this time, we don't.
But I thought over the years in this area, this whole area, that we didn't worry about fencing or anything. Is it all the state kind of took care of that for us in this area?
I think indirectly they do. You know, I don't think, and I would leave that up to parks, but I don't think we would go out and want to fence this when 3 boundaries are state land. The cost of fencing it and surveying and such would be as approaching the value of the land.
Robert, is there any state program that's available that would be the likely purchaser of this, given that the state owns the lands around there? Has it been considered by them, or where does that?
I haven't heard anything where the state is acquiring in this general area. You know, I know they have some monies. I've read where they've acquired some larger tracts. I don't know that they're focusing on smaller tracts with the funding they have. I'm just not aware. Like I said, I've seen where they purchased some large, I'm talking hundreds, if not thousands of acres for, you know, millions of dollars, but nothing smaller.
Conservation Florida, it's too small. I think it's got to be at least 100 acres for them to even consider purchasing it. You're talking about the land program, right, Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be a certain, it may even be a section. It's got to be a certain size before it even qualifies for the threshold for them to buy a property.
All right, thank you.
What about access?
Typically, the state gives us access across their properties as we do with them, because we have some properties. Renee, is there a, where you can zoom out? As you see further south, we own some properties that don't have necessarily physical access, and we kind of have a reciprocal agreement with the state. If we do something, worst case scenario, we just call them and tell them we're going to go the path of least resistance to get to it. But usually there's not a lot of activity out here for management purposes that I know of, and I could defer to parks, but unless you're going out there to do clearing of exotics or something, there's really not a lot of, other than just walk by foot, and it's going to be hard to say whether you're on state property or county property at that point. But if you're walking on foot, I don't see where anybody's going to have an issue with any of that.
Is that a road on the north line of it?
The road. water plant north of it.
No, based on.
No, I think that's the county, I think that's just the county.
That's just the county line as opposed to a road. So we're right on the Charlotte Lee line. Any additional?
I have a question.
Mr. Brockman?
And maybe more clarification. Last parcel we talked about tier 1 and tier 2 and largely basing that on scoring. That was tier 1. Now we come in here and we have a parcel with score 35 and we're still calling it tier 1, so I'm confused.
Well, we were looking at the attributes of this is surrounded by other governmental conservation lands.
Yeah, that's not what I asked though.
Okay.
Are we or are we not tier 1 and tier 2 to the scoring?
To the scoring and the attributes of the parcel. As to the smaller parcels are typically going to score lower than a larger parcel. The parcel that was on the river, that river attribute gives it a lot of points. So from staff's perspective, we're looking at this as an infill parcel similar to Crew. We're filling in the gaps of a larger preserve area and taking it out of private ownership to where it has continuity of conservation land without those private ownerships, to where someone may want to come out and establish some type of improvements on the site to disturb that. You know, we have a similar situation where we're trying to resolve those infill parcels and what is, it's on the west side where the cursor is. We've acquired some smaller properties, and there, for those reasons, they scored lower, but it infills and creates a larger overall conservation area.
Any further comments or questions?
What is the history on the property? Because it looks like it's an old farm or old, like a ditch around the whole thing.
They're not, it's basically ATV trails, swamp.
Well, I meant like there looked like a square pattern, like something had
Yeah,
gone
but
in.
a lot of it,
Maps.
I've been out there, unfortunately.
Okay.
So right out there, a lot of it's all from people being out there that aren't supposed to.
Maria, I think you can address what we're seeing through here. Those are like tributaries or water flowways.
It's just wetlands. So it has the movement. It's not really like a flowway, like a mud flowway. It's just the way that the water moves over wetlands.
Can you expand this again, Renee, so we can see where you see the white? That is where people have gone out into ATVs and stuff. Those aren't necessarily roads. That's people accessing these properties, or the state may have put some, what do you call the perimeters for fire burns and stuff. But I think this is where people have mostly gone out on the state's property and we're using ATVs or some other type of mechanical devices to traverse the property.
Could be also different types of vegetation. If I think, you're mentioning like the circle at the top?
Well, I was just looking at the difference between where you see demarcation differences in the aerial. If you zoom in closer to the subject property, Renee, you see those curvy, darker areas. I'm assuming that's where water is flowing.
Could be deeper areas, different vegetation, you know.
As opposed to where we saw those white areas where the sand is showing is where people have taken and created paths, not natural occurrences between vegetation and land type topography differences.
Mr. Lincoln Hall, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just to clarify, there is an access road along that entire north side that does run pretty much the county line.
Yeah, we looked at the property that the county owns, and I think that there was a portion of if you go closer to Burnt Store Road, I think Charlotte County has a water treatment plant in that area, and I think there was a road in Charlotte County to that facility. But I really didn't see anything going any further east. I'm not saying there's not, I just didn't recognize anything from what we had. But I don't think there's anything running along that north boundary that gives them legal access from what our initial looking at this property.
It just looks like a dirt road between the entire county lines.
So essentially, if a developer were to come in, they'd have to create an entire new access road.
They'd have to, if someone wanted to put a house or improvements out there, they're going to have to create legal access and physical access.
I think it was original Durden Parkway, is what they called Durden Parkway, that went through there that they closed off at one point in time. Because it goes into Charlotte County, it drops back down. If you look at the map, it goes back into where this property is.
And the valuation of this will reflect that lack of access as well.
Any further comments or questions? All right, we'll open up for public comment. Would anyone in the public care to address the committee on item 6B, nomination 671, Charlotte Harbor Flatwoods infill, 19.5 acres with a score of 35? Yes, sir, please come forward and state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name's Henry Guerrero, Vice President of Berkeley Developments, who owns the parcel. And the reason that I brought it to 2020 is I've received a lot of activity on purchasing the property. So I obtained a appraisal on it and submitted it with the application to the county to make it conservation versus having other parcel or other people or us develop the property. My understanding is when I talked to the county that it could at least have one dwelling, possibly two, based on the wetlands possibilities of it. I brought it to the county because I feel it should be brought to a preservation state, but I think it still holds the value of what the property value is. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Guerrero. Thank you for that input, sir.
You're welcome.
Would anyone else in the public care to address the committee on nomination 671? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. It's back to the committee for consideration. What's your thoughts?
Robert, can I ask what the appraiser said it was worth?
I think they had it at 180-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, 180,000.
And there's no clear road to it, correct?
My knowledge, we haven't gotten that far, but the cursory review, I don't see legal access or perfected access.
Can't have a dialogue at this point, sir. Thank you.
So if the lot does have density for a dwelling unit, and that's their right to develop it, would it be the county's responsibility to provide utilities and access, or is that on the property owner in the future to?
In general, that's going to be on the property owner.
So they would have to fund the development, obviously, and then all of the infrastructure to get to their own property.
Get the permitting and, go through that whole process to get from point A to point B.
It's still a possibility for the owner if they decided they didn't want to purchase it. It would still be a possibility for it to be developed if the county didn't want to pursue purchasing it.
I think many times that's always a potential, depending on, if it's financially feasible for them, I can't necessarily stop them.
Any other comments? What is your pleasure with respect to nomination 671?
This Shane Spring, I'll make a motion to move it forward for acquisition and move it to tier 1.
We have a motion by Mr. Spring. All right. We have a second by Mr. Paul.
Second. Sorry, it's you.
He raised his hand, he beat you to the punch. All right, we have a motion and a second to move nomination 671 forward for acquisition consideration as a Tier 1 property. Any further comments or questions? Any opposition? In that motion?
I am, only because I think it's an acquisition parcel. I just don't think it's a Tier 2 parcel.
No, it's Tier 1.
I know, I'm sorry, I don't think it's Tier 1. I think it's Tier 2, so to be fair, all his properties are already in Tier 2. That's the reason I'm voting against it.
Should we split the vote so that you can support it moving forward, but then you dissent from the tiering of it? Is that something we should be doing? Or
I mean, I think we have the votes for it to move forward anyway. So, I mean, if you want to get something on the record.
That's all I wanted to do. I think we have to be fair to those people that have their property put in a Tier 2. And that's my only concern. Like I said, I think it's a good acquisition parcel. I just want to be fair to those people that were nominated, and we wanted to go forward with them. They're in Tier 2, so they're in a waiting pattern.
I think that the better way to do it is to vote on both things, so that, and looking at this can say, no, everyone agreed that it's valuable, but not everyone agreed it should be Tier 1 or Tier 2.
That's why I put on the record that I was not voting for it, only because it was Tier 1 and I think it's Tier 2.
We have a motion and a second, and we can vote. If it fails, we could go back and separate it if you'd like. Or if it passes by a majority vote, it'll go forward and just show the dissenting vote.
I think that's the correct way to
The latter part? All right, so all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Nay. You make good points. So that passes with majority vote. Thank you very much. Next item is staff items, management item. Mr. Young.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair.
We have a report that's in your packet?
Yes, sir. We have a report. I think you have them, right? You guys have a copy of the, Renee, you put those in the packet, right?
They are in the packet.
Okay, thank you so much. I also wanted to bring some prescribed burns that our staff and our men and women that does these burns, they do an awesome job, fantastic job. They work hard every day for us. So Bob James, just in October the 22nd, he just did 36 acres at Bob James, 162 acres at Telegraph Creek Preserve on November 13th. And by the way, Telegraph Creek has over 1,700 acres, so they also did another burn at Telegraph Creek on November 18th, 63 acres. And actually today, they did another 144 acres at Telegraph Creek. Wild Turkey Strand Preserve, Rangers led a hike for Veterans Day. Several was in attendance, and the Wink News did a story on it. Wink News during that walk. 4 Mile Cove Preserve, new trail in the works to a watercraft landing and a picnic site. Frankman Preserve, hog trapping began to assist the Lehigh Acres Municipal Service Improvement District in their water quality project. A new eagle's nest was also on the property in Frankman Preserve. Matanza Pass Preserve, boardwalk in the process of being built after Hurricane Ian. Gator Hole Preserve, fire lanes are being trimmed for upcoming winter burns, and also Hancock Creek Preserve, new entrance signs installed, gate repaired, and more completed at that site. That's it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Young, on the report, I have a question. It's very good information. One thing, if I'm reading it correctly, causes me grave concern, so you'll have to correct me. On page 2, we have a management fund balance of $90,678.23. But on the bottom of page 3, the total spent from the management fund for last year's activities is $1,416,265.77. Seems to me we don't have any money to do management activities this coming year, if I'm reading these numbers correct. Is that correct?
Well, the management money will be there. The staff keeps track of it, but we don't have to worry about the money being there for management.
Well, tell me how. I mean, because if we only got $90,000, has the board made some action to try to replenish that to get it higher, or help us out there?
I tell you what, let me get back with our team and get you a better answer to that so we can be clear on it. with the money that's
I
available.
just want to make sure that all of a sudden you have a lot of activities you'd like to get done.
Yes, sir.
And you don't have any money to do them.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions of Mr. Young on the report? Has a lot of good information in it, so I'd encourage you to read it. Any other comments from the committee relative to the management report or any other items? Dr. Robin.
Discussed, I think a couple meetings ago, that the county commissioners was the word I was looking for. We're pretty focused on the score. And I had said that we had talked many times before that maybe the scores don't perfectly reflect the value, the ecological value of some of the parcels. You know, I think the end of the discussion was it probably wasn't necessary to change it, or it was too, I don't know, it wasn't your wording, but cumbersome or whatnot. It didn't really affect things. I think these two parcels that we looked at today are a perfect example of suffering from the current structure. So you have a parcel that may be 100% perfect, but because it's under a certain acreage, it automatically gets from an A to a B, or from a B to a C. So I have one very straightforward and I think easy intervention that wouldn't take a lot, that would impact a lot of parcels, and that's these infill parcels. So I know they get 5 points for being contiguous, but if they're under a certain acreage, then they get 0 points out of a possible 10. So my proposal would be that the acreage that they get credit for would be the resultant acreage if they were to be purchased. Meaning if this parcel is 5 acres, but you are going to create, you're going to change a 250 acre parcel to 255, that parcel would get a score of what the resultant size of that new parcel would be, if that makes sense, if I'm articulating it well.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because then, you know, you have, I mean, that first parcel you shown was absolutely what we're looking for. I mean, it fills in, it's on the water, I mean, it's awesome, but it gets 0 out of 10 points. I know it gets the 5 because it's adjacent, but if, you know, we looked at maybe reconfiguring that, it would get the score for what the entire resultant parcel would then be. And I think that would be an easy thing to do.
And staff has talked about this on some of the, you know, we have the numbering system, but then come back and express in words what some of these numbers mean to address them further. So we can certainly take that into consideration, that if scored as a whole as to what is contiguous to, you know, this might adjust that scoring.
I mean, is there a reason that we couldn't, is that something we can vote on, or is that more complicated than just voting?
I think this is part of, Renee, can you tell me, do you recall, is this in the ordinance that we approved the scoring in the ordinance?
I think it's part of a resolution.
Yeah, I don't believe
I mean,
it's in the, I don't believe it's in the ordinance.
It's in the resolution? Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good idea. Problem I have, though, is we've already shown tonight that scoring doesn't really move us one way or the other. So that's what I'm wrestling with. That is, you know, we're doing this scoring, but when it comes down to it, we're really not paying attention to it.
I agree to some extent, but as I talked about when I brought this topic up, I had attended the county commissioner meeting the day before, and they were very focused on those scores, or at least a couple of them were. So we've definitely had that discussion, like, it doesn't matter that it's low, we love it. It's like, well, maybe we need to reconfigure this to make those two things align a little bit better. I hear what you're saying.
I'm just looking for some consistency.
I agree.
I think people want consistency.
It seems that there's a little bit of, if you will, science involved in how we view these, wrong term, of course, that we've got to take into consideration how strong our recommendation should be. And there may be opportunities where, because the scoring might not show so, but we might want to append comments as to why we think, in lieu of just considering simply the score, please, board, consider these factors or something, so they have that supplemental information.
I think that's valid, but I also think that if we have a parcel that's going to make a bigger parcel,
that's a very good point.
Better qualification could a piece have? And if, I mean, it doesn't hurt to have the score higher, you know, for whoever's perception. So is that something that can be easily done? Because it seems like a very straightforward adjustment.
Okay. We'll ask Mr. Clemens and staff to look into that.
Okay.
Now, if I may, I'm assuming you're thinking like up to a maximum. It won't be just unlimited. Like, for instance, if it's a crew trust piece, that's thousands of acres, so it doesn't get 2,000 points. it would get
Based
up
on
to
the
a
score.
certain,
Based on the
okay,
score
up to
area.
that
It would get
maximum
10.
number,
If it's over
that
500
maximum
acres,
number.
it gets 10 points.
Okay.
So if crew is already 500 acres and we have a 5-acre parcel, but it's part of now a 505-acre parcel, that should get 10 points.
That makes.
That's kind of an easy fix, really, I would think. Okay.
So yeah, we'll take a look at
Please do.
what process is involved in altering this.
Because I know when the scoring was reviewed a few years ago, it was a long, arduous process to get to that, so we need to make sure we respect how that happened and follow something similar. All right, thank you. Any other committee items? We have a calendar for next year, put it in your book. One more item is public comment. Would anyone in the public care to address the committee on any item not on the agenda? If so, please come forward at this time. Anyone in the public wish to comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Our next meeting date is the third Wednesday of December, December 17th, 5:30 p.m. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Shane Spring.
Motion by Mr. Spring, second by Mr. Monson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Well,